So you searched on YouTube or you talked to your healthcare provider and you found out you have bad posture. So you started doing some chin tucks, some glute bridges, scapular retractions, maybe even some doorway pec stretches to try to improve the posture. But you're just really not seeing any results, or at least relaxed posture results. You see, anyone can stand up tall, pull their shoulders back, and have better posture. You'll see this all the time on social media, especially when you're scrolling through looking at some thumbnails. That said, it becomes more difficult when we're trying to create a posture that's controlled unconsciously. Typical posture exercises make the promise of permanent correction through strengthening and repetition of these movements. Yet that's probably not happening for you and the majority of people with this goal. I know I personally suffered for 2 years trying to hold my shoulders back and down, to find that when I would actually just relax and let everything go, my shoulders would roll forward and I would slouch. It was extremely frustrating. So in this video, I want to cover why these posture exercises aren't doing what we think they are, explain how posture actually works so that way you can stop wasting your time, and the best way to improve posture so that it's permanently correct without you having to constantly think about it. So posture exercises or stretches are really just focusing on strengthening or lengthening weak, tight, strong, long, or some combination of these postural muscles. Think muscles like your pecs, your low traps, transverse abdominis, the list goes on and on. These strengthening and stretching exercises are good for exactly that, just strengthening and stretching the muscles. But they have little to no effect on the posture because they're not integrating the movements to a whole system. If we look at what actually affects posture and can make changes to it, we have to look to the environment. Posture is influenced by a ton of factors. Think about gravity, your internal pressures such as breathing, or if you're bloated, your emotional state. Are you scared? Are you mad? Your vision, joint mobility, body fat percentage. We could spend all day adding to this list. But our postures is a culmination of all these factors in our environment and how they're affecting our body. So I want you to know that posture is really complex. And to think that some banded pull-aparts or some glute bridges is really going to have an effect on our whole posture, it's like trying to drain the ocean by using a single bucket. There's simply too many factors at play here. Now, these posture exercises or stretches may have some benefit for the targeted muscles by strengthening them so that way they're stronger, or stretching them to relieve some type of tension. But again, they're not integrating the body as a whole or really going after these environmental factors. Your rhomboid muscles might be a lot stronger so that way you can retract the shoulder blades better, but is that really going to have carryover into how you're standing? Maybe you can consciously hold those shoulders back for a longer period of time, but if you completely relax, are they going to stay pinned back? If there's any effect these posture exercises actually have on the body, probably just making you more aware of these muscle groups, or if you're just simply slouching at your desk or when you're standing up. This really just brings your mental power or focus onto your posture or the position your body's in space, which is really backwards in comparison to how our body and our brain actually work. For example, if I run across a busy street and there's a bus coming my way, I'm not going to think about if my stomach is tight or if my shoulder blades are retracted. I'm simply just going to get out of the way of the bus so that way I don't get hit. Another example is sending an email or texting someone. You don't think about the little muscles that you have when you're sending those messages. All of these actions of the muscles are controlled by unconscious functions in our brain. If we had to really think about all the little movements that our muscles make, we literally would not get anything done in our entire life. It'd be way too much data. It'd be way too much to think about. There's no way you could focus on work or do anything else. And our posture's no different. It should be controlled without us having to constantly think about it. So at the end of the day, you have to really ask yourself, am I seeing actual objective improvements in my posture, or am I just now more aware and thinking about it more often? This brings me on my next point, which is something that is widely accepted in fitness and rehab culture. And that is that we're trying to strengthen a single position of our body. Many people think posture is simply how you're standing or sitting, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Even when you're sitting still or standing in these postures, there's still some movement happening. Think you're breathing, your internal organs are shifting around, your heart's beating, you're swaying or adjusting your position in the chair. That's because posture isn't a single position. Posture's fluid. It's the small little movements you're constantly making. It's the minute little degrees of motion. Think of it as still frames that have been blended together. Whenever you squat, that's posture. Whenever you're crawling, that's posture. If you go for a run, That's posture. So thinking that you're trying to just strengthen a singular posture or position is fundamentally flawed. And that's because posture is movement. And if you think I'm wrong, look around you. Everything on our planet, as well as the planet itself, is dynamic. Water, air, animals, plants over a time lapse, even continental drift. There's movement literally everywhere. And you're over here trying to defy nature by sitting up tall in your chair with your shoulders back. It just doesn't make sense. So to truly create a change in your posture that's unconscious, you need to stop focusing on strengthening a singular position. Not your standing, not your sitting. You need to start improving how your body moves throughout its environment. A good starting place is to look at your joints' individual mobility. If I'm lacking range of motion, or I have a limitation in, say, my shoulder or my hip mobility, then my body's probably going to create some sort of shape or posture to try to get around that limitation and still be successful. A good example of this is if you have a lateral pelvic tilt or some sort of uneven shoulders. If I can improve the range of motion or clear up any limitations, my body's posture can then adapt over time to my joints' new abilities, and this will potentially reduce any of the bad posture that I'm having. So the amount of postural compensations and joint limitations that we can have is endless. And we don't have time to cover it all in this video without it turning into a week's lecture. But I do offer online services to help improve your posture, reduce chronic aches and pains, as well as get you jacked. You can start with the free posture and movement assessment, which is linked down in the description. With that being said, if you want to see one of the easiest, most effective exercises that I use with my clients to improve their relaxed, unconscious posture, you're going to want to click right up here.